MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Goes, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes. Our East co-host, back East, producing the show today, Jael. What's up, fellas?
Jael have a nickname yet?
Not yet.
No?
No, not yet.
All right.
I think Richard Hunter from the Phone Booth Fighting Podcast will join us soon as well.
He's running a little late.
Co-hosting with us. Yeah, dude, I had to park on level 5, I think, today. It was either that or go through the whole song and dance of, well, I work here, but because when there's a special event, and tonight there's the NHL awards. What do we call them? Just the awards, right?
NHL awards.
They have a name or anything?
No, just the NHL
the Oscars,
awards.
the ESPYs, the this, the that. It's just the NHL awards. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's here. And so it's drawn a big crowd. And therefore, they don't want to sift through, like, well, who's got the employee badge or the parking, parking passes or nothing like that. They just keep sending you up. So I was like, all right, I got plenty of time. Went all the way to the top. And, but yeah, I mean, oh, and check this out. This lady saw me at an elevator, and the doors never closed any slower, Goes. I mean, it was just crawling to like a close.
And
so as I was walking, I had a feeling she knew that I was coming. I got there with a foot to go between the two doors closing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went in there and I did like a karate chop just to get the sensor.
Yeah.
A good karate chop. Like, I covered about 3 feet, almost like a tomahawk chop, like the Florida State fans do. And the door just kept going.
It closed on your head?
It kept going. Yeah, I was like, wow, if I had done the little shimmy thing, where I'm just trying to, like Titanic, like those last guys in the Titanic, like just trying to dive through, it would have crushed me, I think.
Wow.
So I was like, all right.
And she wasn't trying to, like,
take the stairs.
Hold the door open or nothing? Like, she didn't say anything on her side?
No, not even like a sorry, nothing.
Wow.
So then I had to go like down 6 flights of stairs, and that's no big deal. It's just that today I did legs at the gym. And then I also have a bad knee, and it's also 100 degrees. So that kind of
sucked. You looked sweatier than normal when you walked in.
Yeah, that kind of sucked, honestly. But what are you going to do? Here I am, ready to tackle another MMA Junkie Radio show. And I guess I kind of had the day off. I mean, I don't know how you want to look at it. I was at the UFC Apex yesterday for the Dana White Contender Series. Goes and I'll switch off going. And I was there and kind of was there almost all day between the touring that they had and being there. So I wasn't off from MMA, trust me. I mean, I was there to watch the 4 fights that Dana White Contender Series had. Usually it'll be 5, but one fight fell off. So they had 4 fights and just taking in the new Apex Center. And, of course, it's just at a bigger scale now. So I definitely want to talk about that, share my experience with you guys. And I think Ghost said they were able to touch on it yesterday a little bit because he was part of the touring that they had. And it's impressive. It really, really is. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, we also have a couple guests on today's show. Artem Lobov, who's headlining BKFC 6. So that's Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 6. Versus Paulie Malignaggi. That's a huge, huge fight. And it's on Saturday. It's a pay-per-view. So we'll definitely be talking about that. I mean, this is one that they've built up for a while, guys. Not just since they've been spitting at each other. Well, really, it's more of a one-way when it comes to the spitting. But, all the fisticuffs, all the things you've seen. This goes back to a few years ago when Paulie was part of Conor McGregor's camp for a few days, really. It wasn't even weeks, right? It was days.
Days, yeah.
And the falling out from that, that they were just never going to be best friends, regardless. Artem Lobov stands by his guy. All right, can never question the SBG guys, their loyalty. I mean, Conor McGregor will fly across the Atlantic to back up his mate. And regardless of how, let's just say a camera came out and showed that McGregor treated Paulie Malignaggi like a circus animal. I mean, the worst treatment on earth. Artem Lobov is not going to, ask for forgiveness on behalf of the camp or nothing like that to Paulie Malignaggi. I mean, there's just been a dislike since 2017 when all this went down. Here we are 2 years later. But guess what? They get to settle it in a bare-knuckle matchup. They are the headliner. And how about the fact that Artem just went a few months ago versus Jason Knight, and was what was arguably that brief company's best fight ever, and it was one of the best fights I've ever seen as well in all combat sports. And here we are, Artem's already healed up, facial bones and hands, and ready to go against Paulie Malignaggi. So cool. I mean, we'll take it. We didn't need a 5-year build-up for this one. So we'll talk to Artem Lobov. We'll also talk to Ian Joy from Fox Sports. He's a host and an analyst for their soccer, the people that they have there that cover the sport of soccer. And Goes and I are huge soccer fans, and there's 2 big tournaments going on this summer. One is something that I think you should all pay attention to, and that's the Women's World Cup. The men have come short. There's no way around it. I think we've been lucky to reach one quarterfinal, but other than that, the men have just been nothing. It's a big, colossal failure is the best way to put it. And they just keep getting worse, honestly. But I don't want to go down that road right now. The women, though, have been awesome. Mm-hmm. I think they've won 3 altogether, 3 World Cups, and they're one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win this one. So if anything, we can take some pride and joy that they are always there competing. They're in France this year for the Women's World Cup, and I know the first game was 13-0. The second one was 3-0. So that's 16 goals in and none given up. So they're looking pretty good so far. So we'll cover that with Ian Joy, as well as the Copa America, which is dear to our hearts as well because our mom's from South America, Peru to be exact. And so we've heard about this tournament, seen the tournament for many years. And this is when all the South American countries and usually a guest country or 2 can participate and be a part of that as well.
No love for the Gold Cup?
Well, no.
No, nothing.
No. And even that one that just happened in Portugal, whatever that one was called.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, I watched a couple games, but I wasn't, diving in to see, who needs what. And no. That one seemed too soon after the other one. Give these guys a holiday.
I guess.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, what is this, MMA? There's no off-season for those guys? I mean, literally, they're going to report to preseason sometime, I think, in mid-July. It's literally 2 months for those guys, tops. And that's if you don't reach a Champions League final or, those tournaments that wind down really, really late now, push in June. You're lucky if you get the 6 weeks. And while you're on holiday, I mean, I'm sure you get to relax and everything. But if you got to report in 6 weeks, well, guess what? You better start doing a little bit of running on the beach, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So, it's going to be a fun show. And, again, you all are invited to participate. Just like I say every day, call into the show. Tell us your thoughts on Dana White Contender Series, MMA, all the big fights that have been released. We got an injury to talk about right now, a big fight booking that took place late yesterday, and all the latest news regarding the sport. And it's not just UFC only. We talk PFL, we talk One Championship, we talk Bellator, we talk it all, man. And here we go. The number is 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893 on Twitter, at MMA on SiriusXM. You can reach us anytime, not just us, but also the other hosts and producers of the show. Everyone's pretty active on at MMA on SiriusXM. Now, Dana White Contender Series yesterday in the main event, Punahele Soriano, let's just call him Puna. Soriano defeated Jamie Pickett, unanimous decision. Hannah Goldie defeated Kaylee Robbins, unanimous decision. Brendan Loughnane defeated Bill Algeo. I was there, and I'm butchering half of these names. Unanimous decision. Jorgen De Castro, however, got a finish over Alton Meeks. First round TKO stoppage with leg kicks goes.
He looked interesting. He didn't look like he's somebody that could step in right now and start throwing people around, but he looked like somebody athletic enough where he could maybe develop into something.
Right. And so what he did was he stopped Alton Meeks' wrestling attack, and it was very impressive because I'll get into this in a little while when I talk about the new UFC Apex, but basically you have the ability to really hear your corner. And it was interesting to hear the corner. Some of them they were using codes. Some of them was simple like get up, but other times they were using different types of codes on what they wanted to do, whether it was takedown defense, not making sure that Meeks clasps his hands to secure a takedown or any of that. So you're going through the steps of it. But again, that's something that I'll talk about when I want to do a comparison of the first couple seasons at the Tough Gym with this new Apex Center. But he stopped all that, and then he was throwing a couple leg kicks here and there and some strikes. Some jumping knees, different types of variety attacks that I could tell was altering Alton Meeks' attack. He was kind of like just putting something in his head with every single one of those different types of defenses or techniques, and it all came to play out. So 1 finish and 3 decisions. We all sat there, of course, because the night doesn't end there. What the fuck does that mean?
Yes.
All right, here we go. The night doesn't end there, of course, because it's not just winners or losers of the fights. Then they all go back in what was known as the kitchen back then. Now they have an actual proper room, some director's chairs, and they wait for Dana White to let them know if they're a part of the UFC or not. And it's actually pretty compelling, man. It was cool to watch, to sit around and discuss it with other media members. Shout out
the fun part.
Ryan McKinnell, who just ended with Misha Tate. I caught their show. Great interview with Michael Chiesa, SiriusXM app. Check it out. He's got Diego Sanchez coming up. So I was, chatting with him. There was a lot of fighters. It was Tyrone Woodley, Ally, Quinta, Todd Duffy. Triple C was there. And so, everywhere you looked, there was a UFC star. So it was really, really a really cool environment. And, of course, Dana White told us earlier in the day, hey, the public's always been invited. I don't know about all that. That's always been publicly known. He made it sound so casual. But it filled up, and it was really, really, really cool. So everyone sits around and discusses who you got, why, and within a proper amount of time, 5-10 minutes, okay, they go back, and that's when it turns into like reality TV. Dana White goes one by one, what he saw, what he's looking for, and why he or she may or may not be in.
Stop right there.
Okay.
In the past,
yeah,
as soon as the fights are done, I'd say about 50% of the people leave the building. They're getting on the shuttles, and they're getting on their cars, and they're leaving.
Right when the fights are done?
Yeah.
I thought they stuck around for the announcement, no?
50% of them left.
Okay.
The other 50% stuck around for the announcement. How did it work there? Did people still stick around, and did they play it out loud for you guys? Because before, we used to all have to walk over to like a little TV and figure it out.
No, they got the system. They're bouncing, they're bumping it there, and you can hear everything that's going on. So I guess if I had to put a percentage, maybe 10. I mean, I saw a couple of people dart out, but I think everyone. Well, for one, it was night number 1, and so you just never knew what might happen. And plus, there's a lot of, like I say, so some general public people were there, and I'm sure maybe some of them were maybe trying to get a pick with all these names. They actually have Contenders series gear on sale as well, so it's like a little mini arena atmosphere.
They're gonna do like fight nights there and stuff. If you look at the locker rooms where they train and all that, it's very big areas. So
cool.
I mean, they're set up to make this a major thing. So I would think that most people would have stuck around this time.
Right. So they did, and I'll give it a number if you want, 10%, just to maybe anybody that maybe want to rush home. They have families or whatever. But everyone stuck around, and everybody listened, and they went one by one. Dana kind of teases you a little bit. He looked great. Oh, man. But I'm looking for killers. That was a big adjective he was using, or description, I should say, of what type of fighter, a killer. And so we all sat around and waited, and Jorgen De Castro was in. That was a heavyweight. Brendan Loughnane was not in. Hannah Goldie was not in. And Puna Soriano, it took him a while to finally tell us if he was in or not, but he was in. And what usually happens is something that happens with Dana White. You just sit there and dissect his words, his sentences. Because honestly, Loughnane, am I saying his name right? Loughnane. Brendan, we'll call him. BL, I don't know. He was going for it. And the media that pinned down Dana White afterwards, and I think to be more specific, John Morgan from MMA Junkie, said, so it was that takedown that cost this guy from being a member of the UFC? And Dana White said, yeah. And Dana White said, not only that, the camera caught me throwing my pen in the air when he went for the takedown, as if to say, well, that was a wrap. That was it. He said he wanted to see somebody going for it. We'll discuss that a little bit more in detail, but that, like I say, goes. Everyone stuck around and everyone dissected words here and there and moved it around to what he was saying. And everyone's an interested party. A lot of people didn't care about Puna Soriano. They came to watch Hannah Goldie. A lot of people didn't care about Hannah Goldie. They came to watch Brendan. So that conversation was pretty interesting afterwards. Still makes for an awesome Tuesday. You just can't top Dana White Contender Series, man. It is the tits.
Yeah, no, it's a fun time. I was definitely thinking about you guys and especially it being in the Apex Center, how cool it must have been to be there for the first one. But I'm going next week. I'm excited. I like all the new bells and whistles, which really doesn't seem like there are much except for just the giant place that you're in now, the venue.
Yeah, I agree. All right, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the tour that we took of the UFC Apex Center and the comparisons that I can give you from being and seeing the Dana White Contender Series in the UFC Tough Gym to the new Apex Center. Plus, more to talk about still with Brendan Loughnane. It's actually a part of our daily debate. That's why we held back. So you're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM, Fight Nation Channel 156. Stay close, and we'll be right back.
MMA Junkie Radio.
I got John Morgan coaching me through Brendan's last name.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. This is you guys can help me out here. It sounds when he spelled it, Lock, it reminded me of Loch Ness Monster. So I wrote, like Lock, L-O-C-K.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, yes, but a little softer. Halfway between a K and a G.
Loch name.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll go with
At
that
first,
one.
I thought, what could he possibly mean by that? But then when Richard did it that way, I went, oh yeah, I guess that is me.
Lochnane. Okay, I like it. Thank you, John Morgan. Lochnane, Brendan Lochnane was the guy that we were discussing earlier, who very well could have walked away for a contract, if not for that takedown. Man, it cost him.
Yeah.
And so many fighters are just trying to cement a round. In his mind, like, what if he's thinking, hey, one of these rounds was close, and I definitely won round one, or whatever. So by securing this takedown, I got the win. But see, here's the thing: he had the luxury of batting. What did he bat? Second or third? Hold on. He batted second. He saw what the first guy did.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no guarantee that they give multiple contracts. If they're only giving away one, you got to top the guy that was in fight number one, especially when there's only 4 fights. But I think Dana over 20 years has kind of told you what he's looking for. He very clearly defined killer yesterday. But I think he wants people to definitely go for it. This is the show to go for it, and so that cost him. And I'll tell you what, I don't know that I disagree. Now, I can't spend too much time on it because it's our daily debate. We want to get into it a little bit more specific name, but at least we got the name locked down.
Yeah. I wouldn't just stop there. Not only would I not go for that takedown, but if I didn't have like a cute kid, I'd get one somewhere, put in the audience. Like, you need all the help you can get.
Like, I think you get to invite 5.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you have them in bright pink T-shirts making all kinds of noise?
Good one.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some sort of a horn, like a Jimmy Hart guy with there as well. I don't know, but do something. I've seen some of them people pressure Dana White. See, I'm going to get into it right now. With when I used to go to the old gym to watch it, you could almost get near him and say, "What'd I tell you? That's my dog.
Yeah.
That's my dog." And then Dana kind of, he kind of smiles and says, "All right, calm down," But I bet you there was 1 or 2 times where he almost got pressured, and he'd actually laugh it off and say, "Well, the guy, whoever that was, his big brother in the audience was going to kill me if I didn't give him a contract." So I gave him a contract,
Yeah.
I'm not joking. Whether in the past 2 years I've seen some of that. And so anyway, you got to like Richard said, drop a people's elbow or bring a kid or
just bring Jimmy Hart. I hadn't thought of that before you brought it up, but that's a great idea.
Well, we talked about some of the keys to getting that contract yesterday, and one of them was you do need to do some of that, but you can't be too over the top or you become annoying. And I think
Big Mouth
purposely won't give it to you because Big Mouth, yeah.
Big Mouth, yeah. Well, Big Mouth the problem was he was superior and he clowned too much. And it looked like he could have got a stoppage at some point, but he was so focused on putting on this show that he didn't put his guy away because the guy was tough. And then, then all of a sudden he hit a certain gear. I remember that fight. I don't remember the opponent's name, but I remember the fight. And then now he couldn't put him away because then that guy also had a couple strikes here and there. But it didn't bother Kevin Holland, so there's no reason to revisit history. But let me tell you guys something. I'm sure you'll take in one of the Dana White Contender Series soon, right?
Yeah. I did the tour the other day, and that was awesome. And I went to a number of them the past couple of seasons. No, my tour was Monday. I think they split them up over 2 days for some reason.
Okay.
Remember how they said they were going to do A team and B team? He went the night before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes him the 18. So anyway, well, I guess now we can all share our thoughts. I mean, you haven't been to a Contenders yet, but from what you saw, what did you think of? Did they take the next step up?
Yeah. I thought it looked great on television, on the app. I mean, just the fact that the place is built for that, it's made for that, that everything is taken into consideration from the color scheme to the lighting to the seating configuration. I mean, it looked like almost like a mini fight night type card, So it was kind of like halfway between the Contender Series, the old Ultimate Fighter fights that we would see, which were cool in their own right because they were so intimate, but then like halfway between that and Pearl of Palms kind of fight night card.
You know what it reminds me of? The WEC, when they used to do it at the Hard Rock, at the joint, the smaller version though, back then. That's what it kind of looked like to me on TV.
Look, it looks snazzy.
Yeah.
I mean, that place is awesome.
Yeah.
$Multi-million was spent on that. And it looks like they got themselves a gem because it's going to be used for, they said, concerts and other types of sporting events.
Yeah.
Not just that. Like, they realized, hold on a second, we got something special here. So it won't just be Dana White Contender Series, and it won't just be The Ultimate Fighter if and when they bring that back, which I heard they are. However, being there, and this is me being picky, splitting hairs. I'm not complaining. This really isn't a complaint. But I got to be honest with you. I felt like a little bit of the intimacy that I enjoyed at Dana White Contender Series in the first 2 seasons loses itself there because those extra bodies that are there, and I'm not trying to shit on the public or anything, but a little bit of that just, what's the word? A little bit of it just was lost. Whether it was the 2 families, they used to sit on those bleachers pretty close. There was a little bit of tension when when they were a little bit too vocal. Mm-hmm. You know, he's a bum. He's got no heart. I mean, you're saying that, and the other family's like right next to you. You know, and so a couple times they had to get security to kind of get in there and interrupt. Well, again, it's kind of like I keep saying, like Little League, like an aggressive Little League. I didn't want it to get to it, but the fact that that possibility was there made it interesting. I love the air conditioning. It was very comfortable. I love that my ass wasn't hurting when I walked out of that place because those bleachers suck. In fact, at some point, you just stand around.
I forgot about that pain.
But there was something pretty cool about commiserating on Tuesday nights and being able to just, I'm just going to get up and say hello, and then watching the fights. Now I'm standing over here, and now I'm talking to a fighter that I might be trying to book for the show or a manager that I might run into or just another notable from the sport, you know. So all that little commiserating and walking around. I mean, it's not like you could float around everyone. Over here, you're a little bit more in your seat, and it's a little bit more structured. And again, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's very, very cool. But I think when you guys are there, you'll think there will be one or two times where you'll miss it. You can still hear the corners. That's cool. And in the Jorgen De Castro fight, I mean, that guy listened to his corner was perfect. You can still hear all that, but a little bit of that Little League thing with the vibe that was there was lost. And like I mentioned, I wasn't kidding when people would come off of those bleachers and get near Dana White and the matchmakers and say, "That's my dog. You got to give him a contract. You know, you're a fool if you don't give him a contract." And everybody would laugh it off because it actually was an asset to bring one of those entertaining folk, one of those loud people. Yeah. Well, all that kind of gets squashed. I mean, you can still maybe say something, but it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit nicer, and it's a little bit more structured, and it's just the human behavior made you want to behave a little bit more because you were in a nice, proper setting, and so you were just, you know, chilling out a little bit. I don't know. Even the jokes, the side stuff, you're kind of using your hand like, I think he's quitting, you know, whatever. Yeah. Over there, it was just a little bit more open.
All right, let me ask you this because this is something that always resonated with me at the old Tough Gym when these would happen, is that these fights were taking place in a gym. And for anybody who's ever been in an MMA gym, even when you're seeing sparring and pro sparring, it's still not a fight, right? I mean, those two people, even though they're going whatever they're going, 80% or they're still not trying to knock each other out because they're preparing for a fight. This is a fight. This is a pro fight that is going on a record. So you're taking a pro fight and you're putting it in a gym setting. And when you're watching that in what is the equivalent of a gym setting, it's unsettling because it's like, man, it's like we're standing around in a gym and where you think you're conditioned to feel like, oh, there's going to be sparring taking place, and all of a sudden a badass fight breaks out, a pro fight breaks out. Yeah. So I always felt that at the old Tough Gym, that there was that vibe. Did you feel like it lost a little bit of that, or did it still feel like it's kind of like a gym, not completely like an arena setting?
No, it loses a little bit.
A little bit, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. You'll still have a blast.
Yeah.
And I think that bad boy is going to be used a lot. I could see other organizations maybe wanting to come in there. The locker rooms are beautiful, man. Yeah. The production, the stuff that they're going to be able to do is incredible. I'm amazed by that. I tip my hat to all that. But a little bit of that smaller gym feel that was just kind of cool. And maybe it was a little bit of like, haha, we're in Vegas. we're media. We get to experience that, that maybe others don't. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I just remember sitting there thinking, this is just different. It's just different, but it's still cool. It was just different. So I need you guys to sit there. Although, actually, I need you to co-host with me next week because Goz is going.
Okay.
And I think Goz, week 3, you need him back?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and I'll need you in week 4. Okay. So, you're not going this season as well.
It's funny you bring that up, though, because he brought that up yesterday. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so that joke's been played already. Anyway, but you guys will experience it, and it's you've already done the tour, and I can't say enough. Dana, what he said about changing the game, I think what people were expecting was a different type of announcement. They don't see, I guess, the long term of what they may actually be able to pull off there, like having fights delivered to different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. That's something that benefits that business.
Yeah.
But as a fan, I mean, there's not going to be a check that arrives in the mail that you benefit because they're taking this next step. There's not going to be nothing like that. It's just going to be one of those where if you're a fight geek and you want to watch a lot of these other types of different promotions or fights, guess what? The UFC Fight Pass is going to blow up.
I think he's right. Overall, it has changed the game when you think about it. All the bells and whistles that are coming along with it, all the things that they can do, not just as a fight fan watching it, but just like the in-ring or in-arena experience, the production side of how things get done. He has kind of changed that game. Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah. Look, our friends at Final Fight, when I've been there, there is something to say, though, about going in person, and that's the part where I politely and respectfully disagree. I don't know that you can just sit at home and soak all that up 24/7.
Yeah. Dana White Contender Series?
Yeah, because if I were to just hand you something, I'm just going to mix up some names here, and if I'm going to go, hey, guys, Jamie Algeo is going to be fighting Alton Soriano, you guys would go, who the fuck cares? What are we having for dinner? You know what I mean? But if I go, hey, I got tickets and the arena's right there, you want to go? Hell yeah. Because being up close and seeing it, like, again, our friends at Final Fight, when I look, most of the time I don't even know who some of these people are. Just for the MMA people, okay, cool. But this guy's out of Mayweather's gym, and he's the next big thing. Never heard of him. And the guy he's fighting, he's out of another gym, and the Kronk gym in Detroit. Never heard of him or whatever. And these kickboxers they bring in, okay, cool. But when I'm sitting there, man, I'm glued. You know what I mean? Because I'm right there in an intimate setting with great lighting, and it makes it feel special. Are there that many people on earth that just take in this much content? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe. Now, one thing that'll happen, and I'm sorry to go off on yet another tangent, is gambling. Gambling makes anything fun.
Oh, okay.
Trust me. You know what I mean? But I just don't know.
You have to be a degenerate if you're betting on those, though, right?
Dude, I've been in Tijuana where people are betting on high ally. And so,
the most dangerous sport in the world, they say, right?
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
People die playing high. You know what highlight is?
I don't even know what that is.
Really? It looks like you have a little...
This is the first time that Richard doesn't know something that I know, yet he's 10 times smarter than I am. He's taught. He's educated me. Like, there's been about 100 things that he said over the 10 years I've known him where I go, really, what's that? And this is the first time he told me what you just described.
Okay, picture a handle with like a basket, and then they throw a ball and it hits the wall.
Like a high-speed handball, but you got to...
I know you've seen it at some point.
So kind of like lacrosse?
Sort of,
yeah, but it's like smaller. Picture a big racquetball type court setting.
Yeah.
And they're just like hurling this ball using this...
They throw it at a wall.
Like one of those wiffle type of...
okay. Why is it dangerous?
Because of the high speed of the ball, and people get hit in the head.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I guess...
It's popular in Tijuana.
You can bet on it as the fights as the game is going.
Yeah.
The score could be 15-8. You're like, well, give me the team with 8. Apparently, I've seen something that they might do to build up some sort of a rally, and then they win. Same thing with Muay Thai in Thailand. You can bet during the fights.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, maybe it'll get popular enough where they can get some helmets.
Do they have them? I think they do. Right?
I went like 30 years ago, I think.
Johnny Knoxville got lit up by...
Did he? I went like 30 years ago, and I can't remember if they had them or not, but trust me, man, I don't know if it makes a difference. You'd have to wear a football helmet, yeah. It was interesting. It wasn't bad. If they still have it in Tijuana, they got bullfights, donkey shows, highlight. It's one hell of a night if you guys ever get a chance to go.
I feel like the same guy goes to all 3 of them.
I'm out on 2 of those.
Yeah.
I'll go watch the guys get hit in the head with the concussions.
Oh, the bullfights?
Nothing with animals.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I understand that. I got to admit, when I remember this was 30 years ago, I probably felt a little bit differently. But I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. Stay close. We'll come back. We got to do our daily debate. And this is Richard Hunter from the Phone Booth Fighting Podcast with us.
Take it away, ladies.
Right now, the SiriusXM app. Right now on the SiriusXM app, check out the SiriusXM Town Hall, and it's hosted by Duke's men's basketball coach Mike Krzyzewski. Coach K is how he's known, and his special guest, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Hear their candid conversation about the upcoming NBA draft, free agency, and more. Look for it on sports page of the SiriusXM app. All right, guys. Let's discuss the daily debate because we've been holding on to a little bit here with the other guy that didn't get in, Brendan Loughnane, I think.
Loughnane.
Yeah. So, Jael, if you don't mind, hit it.
The brothers Garcia seemingly can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season.
Rabbit season.
Duck season.
Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
Less filling.
Tastes great.
Less filling.
Tastes great.
gambling,
Always bet on black.
I like red.
Black.
Red.
Black.
Red.
Black, dummy.
or even social media,
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
the same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
Today's Daily Debate question for the MMA Junkie Radio team and the host of the Phone Booth Fighting Podcast, Richard Hunter. Did Dana White snub Brendan Loughnane of a UFC contract at Dana White Contender Series number 17? Yes or no? Please expand. Goes.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
If he's not going to cut somebody in the UFC for behaving that way, for fighting that way, for using that style, that point of strategy.
But the guy won.
I know. But if he's not going to penalize somebody that's in the UFC for it, how can you penalize somebody trying to get into the UFC to do that? That doesn't make any sense. If he gets into the UFC and he does that, he's not going to get cut, right? It's part of the game. It doesn't make sense to penalize somebody for that.
Well,
I get where he's coming from.
He was superior to the other fighter, though.
I know,
And if
man, but that
anything,
doesn't mean he's not going to... Can you just
maybe
go,
he doesn't
hey,
want to
kid,
get to the point where he's like, wow, man, Elias Theodorou doesn't get it after 14 fights. I got to cut. Maybe he doesn't even want to get to that. He wants to get to killers. You know what I mean?
I know, man, but can't you... He looked great. Can't you just pull him aside and go, hey, kid, why'd you do that? I don't think you really needed to do that. I think it's a conversation that could have just been had just like that, quick. And the kid probably would have said, maybe he had a reason. I don't know. Maybe he was hurt. Who knows? Who knows? But to just say, nah, because I don't like that last bit, the last 10 seconds of what you showed me? Come on, man. You know what these people give up to get in this situation?
Well, yeah, but
It's
a lot
part
of
of the
people know, a lot of
game.
people know what Dana likes, and I'm sure Dana probably did a little pep talk, and he probably discussed.
But he
Oh,
gave
this-
him a lot of what he liked. It was just the ending that he didn't like.
Okay, how about you, Richard?
I mean, is it a snub by the letter of the definition? Probably. However, I like it. I like the fact that
He snubbed him?
Yes, and that moreover that this can just periodically happen. That it's not fair. That we're not seeing. I'd like to see it some weeks where there. I wouldn't mind one week if there's no contract given. You know, if there's a case to be made for that, just to keep the formula itself and the fighters on their toes. I don't follow college football, but I am amused every year when I see a bunch of people arguing about who should have been the national champion or something. I mean, I don't really this conversation I will pay close attention to, but I like that aspect of it. That you know what, there's no guarantees going in and there's no guarantees coming out, even if you win.
So I'm the tiebreaker here, huh? I'm gonna side with Richard.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
I the only thing I don't like is that the takedown decided it, because for 14 minutes and 50 seconds, homeboy fought, and he did look better than the other guy. And let's just say he gets the finish with seconds to go. I mean, we still don't know, because Dana White's only tied down by I think he's committed to at least one per week, right?
Is he? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
but
think he has to.
I don't think he'd waste everyone's time and not do it.
Hey, if they don't meet the criteria, then
Yeah,
I don't see why you have
perhaps. Well, I mean, did Puna Soriano meet the criteria? He was a killer. He was throwing everything with bad intentions, but he also went to a decision. I think a lot of that had to do because his cardio just depleted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That other dude wouldn't go away, and so I don't know that there has to be a finish.
to. What's the bigger red flag, though? Cardio depleting or a takedown at the end? Which can you correct faster?
Take down at the end.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I get that he has his things going in. This is what he wants to see, but you gotta be somewhat flexible. Look what these people have to give up to get in this situation.
What I would have liked is for him to say, "We'll have him back this season."
Perfect. I would have taken that. If he would have
Yeah.
said that and said, all right, we'll give, because they've done it before,
And
I would have
maybe-
been okay with
and
that.
maybe they've done, yeah, they have. And maybe that's what they do behind the scenes or whatever. But there's something about that drama for television. And I'll tell you what, Richard, he does not mind being the bad guy.
Right.
So if he has to deliver this bad news, he doesn't have those heartstrings to pull on, to just go, come on, man. He fought his ass. He does not mind being the bad guy. That's one thing that I learned from the very beginning. That's something that they'll do, because he protects the UFC, those three letters and what they stand for. there's this one guy that you know him, Charlie MMA fan or Charlie UFC fan.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he writes me letters about hoping and wishing that Dana White would change his personality and the way he treats people. It's not gonna happen, man. That's just the way he likes to run the UFC, and I've never really met too many promoters that everyone feels like that's just a jolly fella. Maybe Scott Coker's the only one that it's hard to find someone that dislikes that guy. So maybe he's.
Wouldn't it be weird if those letters from Charlie MMA fan were actually from Dana himself, and that's the only way he can express the softer side?
Maybe.
Yeah, this is how it broke down, guys. It was 87% that agreed with Goes. Actually, you and I 13. Hope we don't get bad luck today. Almost 500 votes came in. Thank you to Junkie Nation, the listeners of the show, and the readers of the site for chiming in. Couple quick ones here. Alejandro Rodriguez at ARod9720. He said yes, definitely, absolutely, that it was a snub. However, Kalani Lua at KLua11, he said no, with a exclamation point.
So he said no,
hell no, yeah, no. That's what he said. And these people are getting creative too with the gifs. They all had a gif or whatever. In fact, there was one more here. It was funny. At GZA_KZ. Whatever all that is. He wrote that is a stupid ass question.
Well, let me point.
He got us, I guess.
Let me just point something out from a production standpoint. Now that we're having this debate, there's a reason why they have that little camera on Dana's table. It's to capture one of two reactions: either the holy shit, whoa, this, or when he Frank Mir faces somebody like he did last night. Not in between. They're never going to use the camera shot where he looks at Sean Shelby and goes, They're not going to show that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really good or really bad. So don't do anything to give him the opportunity to do the face.
Do you think this killer remark that he said is kind of a piggyback to the recent cuts where he had to explain, you either got to have it, you got to show me that you're going to be a top 5 or a future world champion or whatever it was that he saw? You think he's maybe piggybacking that a little bit just to kind of send that message out into the atmosphere to future fighters? You come to fight here. We don't want decisionators. We don't want cruise controllers. We don't want safe fighters or whatever. He wants people,
Yes, in a broad sense. I don't think it's necessarily coordinated. But I do think that he probably, it's kind of like where you just kind of every once in a while make an example. And by the way, you probably make an example out of the people who are not going to cost you a lot of money by not headlining your pay-per-view card, that kind of stuff. So I think that it's kind of a lot of times the worker bees, where there's an opportunity, will suffer for the sins of a lot of people who are of a much higher profile than they are, just to get the point across.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. We're going to take our last break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. And what we'll do is we're going to circle back to this. This is really, really a fun conversation. And we have some audio cuts from Dana White, and he's a little bit more specific in regards to the winners of, I should say, the winners and the losers. So they were all winners. We had 4 winners. Just some lost out on getting a contract. We'll touch on that when we come back.
All their snacks. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, we're back. Got a few audio cuts to play from Dana White Contender Series, where the UFC president Dana White kind of explains a little bit more of the, why he applied his rationale to the fighters that fought yesterday. And remember, even though 4 of them went home as winners, they got their hand raised. Their record says they got another win. I think there is a little bit of a disappointment where you feel like, I was one of the losers, because the point was to join the UFC. Mm-hmm. When they walked out of that locker room, spacious, luxurious locker room, their goal was to 15 minutes later be in the UFC. Well, make it an hour later by the time the show was over. And that's something else, to be able to say, I fight for the UFC. You fight at the highest level. It's like making it to the NFL. I got drafted, or an NBA team, or whatever. And so to fight and get the paycheck, the money, thank you. All right, cool. Am I in the UFC? That's what this show does. And to hear that you're not in, it's like you almost feel like it's a failure, But it isn't, guys and gals. Maybe you'll get to run it back or something. It happened to Joby Sanchez. I can remember that one. And a few of them get that developmental contract too, which again is confusing for me.
Something else to maybe consider, I just thought of, is that, they are getting in the express lane in terms of trying to get in the UFC. They're getting an opportunity by being on that show and on that stage that other people who do come to the UFC don't get. They have to come through a much more anonymous lane. Right, they have to get noticed by a scout and then brought in, and a lot of other conditions I think have to be right, as opposed to, hey, guess what? We're going to put you on ESPN. You're going to have a live fight, and if you win, and it looks pretty good, then we're probably going to give you a contract. So I think maybe that being said, because they've got the advantage of that, maybe it's a little more fair than we think to also realize that there's more expected out of them.
You're right,
but I mean, what I don't understand is, all right.
I mean, we do know the rules going in. You can't. For one, you just can't go to a decision and then be outraged. That I know for a fact. You're really playing with fire. Mm-hmm. And
why don't we just get rid of wrestlers?
I've seen guys that finished
in the UFC.
I've seen guys that finished and didn't get in, and actually were pretty exciting just because they were out excited by someone else.
Why don't we get rid of all the BJJ guys, all the wrestlers? I mean, because you're basically telling people, if you want to be here, you got to fight this way.
Well, what he's saying is, who they want you to wrestle like? Gillespie, where he's a wrestler, but 5 of his last 6 wins have been finishes. Or like how GSP mauled Matt Serra. Mm-hmm. They want you to use that type of wrestling and be dominant and just be beating the shit out of somebody.
But if he was like that, would he really be in the Contender Series?
That's the thing. You're right. Yeah, they do. Have they even
acquired
like those skills?
In a way.
The problem, though, too, is not that he shot a takedown. It was when he shot it and where he was at in the fight when he shot it. That, I think, is the big problem. Because I think you also have to be aware of what is my own narrative in this fight. Like Soriano, okay? So maybe, and I don't know if you can, have this conscious thought in the middle of a fight, but if your battle becomes, hey, I think I'm definitely winning this fight, but I'm also, my gas tank is rapidly draining, and what I got to do is I got to finish strong, I got to look like I'm really gutting this out, then that's a positive narrative. I think you can't be reckless. It's not like you're going, hey, I think I'm winning this fight, I'm going to go for some kind of crazy, spinning spectacular something and try to go for a finish that could also set me up for something real dangerous. You can't do that. But I think you also do have to realize, okay, if I feel like I'm this far ahead, what are maybe 1 or 2 things I take off the table that are going to end up being a little anticlimactic?
You've hit pads before, right?
Yes.
Okay. When you're hitting them and you're just used to certain flows, like Angelo Reyes, right? Mm-hmm. Calls out certain combinations. You do them every day. And then for some reason they throw in either a new wrinkle or they switch one thing up. Mm-hmm. And how many times do you end up doing what you used to do? Yeah. So much of fighting is instinctive. And I don't know if this poor kid with 10 seconds left, just instincts took over. Mm-hmm. And maybe halfway through the takedown he went, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. But he did it and it worked. And it was a good thing for the fight. Probably not a good thing for Dana White's Contender Series. I just think that part sucks.
He did the right thing. No, that's the thing. If he's fighting in LFA or name the organization, he absolutely did. I don't think you would ever see a coach in a real – I mean, that was a real fight. But in any other fight scenario, go, what the hell were you doing with that? You know, you went to a strength with no time left when you were winning. No, I think they'd be fine with it. But I think what you have to realize is this very unique scenario brings with it unique X factors. And the other thing is, too, it could have, to me, just as easily have been completely overlooked. That's why this thing is so arbitrary. Mm-hmm. He just drew the short straw of the Dana White Cam reaction. Like, that could have happened like it did, or it could have just as easily not happened. I'll bet we could see throughout the rest of the season a very similar scenario where somebody, for whatever reason, kind of does something similar and no one even says a word. It just goes right by everybody. That's when it's arbitrary.
I'm okay with Dana White saying these things. Well, I'm even okay if you don't find a guy exciting, and normally a road to a title is 5 fights, make his 7, 8, whatever you want. If you want to bury him in the undercard, fine. Do it that way. But at the end of the day, I want to know who the best fighter is. And in order to find out who that is, you got to let him fight under the rules.
Yeah. He was sending a message to all future fighters, and I think that was a little bit of a cleanup for Elias Theodore, what happened with that cut, and was also and that, by the way, what he did with Big Pretty, which I haven't heard that he's officially back yet, but that's also probably maybe Big Pretty was pushing back on, well, this is what I want to make, this is the kind of money I want to make, or this is how I want to be. When you're too vocal of a fighter and you feel like you have a say in things, they'll easily tell you where you fit in the whole scheme. All right, folks, we'll be right back. It's the top of the hour break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Artem Lobov. That's right, hour 2 of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Soon we'll be joined by Artem Lobov, who's headlining BKFC 6 out in Tampa, Florida. Can't wait to hear from him. I mean, he was in an epic war against Jason Knight literally a couple months ago. And guys like Wolverine, man, he healed up from that, and he's ready to fight another one. And this one's against somebody who comes from the boxing world, you know, so he's definitely got his hands full. This is going to be a great fight. You can purchase that pay-per-view for $39.99 by going to www.fight.tv. Chris Lieben's also back for BKFC 6. You guys chatted with him yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's looked like a beast over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm telling you, man, bare knuckle, BKFC, those guys have really made their mark early on. They've caught some breaks. You know, I talked about how Artem and Lobov and Knight was kind of like their Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner. Well, it took the UFC 12 years to get to that. But just the Zuffa team, it took them about 4 years and almost $44 million in debt. 54 if you throw in what it took to produce UFC number 1. But
it's kind of like, to me, that's a great analogy that Lobov and Knight was their Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner in the cage or in the ring, and so far out of the ring, Paulie and Lobov is kind of like their Chuck and Tito. Yeah. Like, I think it's their first real signature rivalry.
Right, and so to have that so soon, because it's just BKFC 6, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So congrats to David Feldman and the team, and he was able to get Chris Lieben. And then how about the fact that the other one, I think they're called World Bare Knuckle, the WPK, those guys, they had so many troubles, and in this day and age where you just Google something and go, wow, they're in trouble, that must be that must be all of them, because there's one out in London as well, out in England, I should say, for them to just get past a couple of these obstacles and just keep chugging along. That's huge. Mm-hmm. Are you a bare knuckle fighting championship fan?
Yeah. I'll definitely be interested in this card, and it's we were talking about this yesterday with Chris Lieben, and it's come up on my own podcast with Frank Mir that Frank has this opinion that it's actually much safer than it looks, and in some cases you could argue maybe safer than gloved fisticuffs, because with your hand exposed, because the bones in your hand are so fragile, it actually tempers what you're throwing. I'm going to be way more cautious about hitting you on the wrong part of the head and breaking my hand, things like that.
You're going to be more selective for sure.
Exactly. Cosmetically, it looks horrendous, but maybe that's why it works. Maybe for the fan who that's how they judge. It's like the one who judges who's going to win the fight by who's got the better physique. If they judge, the most brutal fight by the bloodiest, maybe those fans need that. But I think on a deeper level, it's actually not as dangerous or barbaric.
We want it to be raw. We want it to be raw until the moment that it's over, and that's when you feel bad for the other party, and that's why we all hold our breath and go, "Is he okay? Are they okay?" Mm-hmm. But I've, not to again just go down this rabbit hole. I've tried to tell people, think about your high school days, and if you heard, "Hey man, Joey and Jimmy are gonna fight across the street behind Burger King," there'd be like 1,000 people there, however many were in your high school. The word would spread, by the time 7th period came, everybody would get there.
Did you go to 3 o'clock high? That's a lot of kids.
And you're just, modern day, we had 2,200 in our 2,400. I mean, whatever. And a lot of kids, right? And you're just hoping security doesn't break it up. But if either Jimmy, who did I use, Jimmy and Joey?
Jimmy and Joey.
Let's just say Jimmy goes, "Hey, Richard, this weekend I got a karate tournament. You want to come check it out?" You'd probably be like, no, I got like a million things better to do. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to be a real hardcore karate person to go to that tournament and check them out. Yeah. But the rawness of just, hey, I'm meeting some dude at the park, and the word gets out, that's that raw feel to it.
Yeah.
That's why the UFC, even though there's a lot of martial artists that come through and say, hey, this is about respect and honor. It is, man. No one's disputing that. But 90% of the people that go to the arena aren't looking for that. They can appreciate sportsmanship. They're not looking for that. They're looking for that violence. Again, now we're at a baseball game. Something breaks out. You watching the game? No, you're watching the fight. What happened? Mm-hmm. Who got who? You know what I mean? Or the analogy I used of the karate tournament versus the back alley brawl.
And I think I can relate to both, because I am in that 10% when it comes to MMA who wants to see the jiu-jitsu showcase. That's just me. But I know a lot of times I've seen guys in MMA fights, and I've thought to myself, man, that guy can bang like nobody's business. It's too bad he has no idea what to do on the ground. Well, maybe UFC isn't the place for him, but you know where is a place for him? It's bare knuckle. Mm-hmm. So I think that's fine. I think there's some people who are just going to be meant for that. Goz and I were talking to Chris Lieben about that yesterday, about, man, contrary to the cliche scenario of, oh, yeah, this guy was once in the top promotion of the game and now he's just kind of doing this thing. We're actually making the point that, hey, you've come into your own in this thing. There's this is going to end up, this could end up being a whole nother legit chapter of your career where you really thrive.
You know what I like about it too is it reminds me of the early UFC days where now it's not only about Artem Lobov and Paulie Malignaggi, it's also about boxing versus MMA. Mm-hmm. They're starting to do that a little bit. So there's like more than one thing riding on each fight. And then you add in the drama. I think the Tito Chuck.
I wish Paulie wouldn't make it that, though. That it's, we went through this with boxing, and I think both sports suffered. I think you can appreciate both sports, honestly. You know what I mean? If that's what it takes to build up a storyline, okay, I get it. But I really hope it's not one of those where there's an actual disdain from people from one sport for another. Like Jim Lampley, that was genuine, man. He just did not like MMA. And it's like, well, fuck you. I like boxing too, and I seem to appreciate MMA. Yeah, I think you're just missing out.
That, right?
Yeah. Like Bernstein was one of those that resisted. Kevin Alley was one of those that at first didn't understand it as much, and then came to find that there is a beauty, even though it's a violent sport. This MMA, there's some of those techniques that you see, are just amazing to behold. Whether even sometimes when they miss.
You know what happens is social media fuels all this, because back in the day you can make a remark like that. I hate that MMA stuff. It'll never take off. But just the people in the room knew you said it. I think these guys get so in on things that they say, and they don't want to be wrong, that they just hold on to that stance like they got it. The world depends on it. Stephen A. Smith's one of those guys, I think, where he just goes so hard in on something that he just feels like he's got to keep going with it. As ridiculous as it is, people can disprove it over and over. He doesn't want to look like a fool and go back on it.
I also think, too, that there are people who just can't process shades of gray in terms of critical thinking. They can't see anything, sport or otherwise, and go, well, I see the merits of both. There's pros, there's cons. I like this about this. I like that about that. There are people who, whenever you present them with a scenario, a proposition, an idea, their first question is, what are the two teams? I got to pick one, left or right, red or blue, which gang colors am I wearing? I got to figure this out, and I stick to that because it keeps me from having to use deductive reasoning. I don't have to assess things on a day-to-day, case-by-case basis.
Your love for combat sports, how far does it go back? Does it even go back as young as, like George brought up, karate tournaments where you're watching The Karate Kid, The Warriors, movies like that?
Yeah, where it
Bruce Lee, all that stuff.
Where it starts with me is boxing, and watching fights like Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran, Hagler, Hearns, Larry Holmes. The latter days of Muhammad Ali, when he was still in his prime, was a little before my time. But that was my introduction to it was boxing. I always watched boxing as a kid, whereas I didn't watch any other sports. And then I watched kickboxing. And this was the days of kickboxing on ESPN where they'd wear the satin pants. Yeah. Remember those? Yeah. So
Michael McDonald at the MGM, at the Mirage and ballrooms and all that, like those days.
Yeah, but like you know what I'm talking about? Those pants they used to wear? Yeah. And they'd wear the padded feet things. Yeah. And so I would watch that. So that was, as a kid, that was really the only sport I watched.
The problem with that sport, because if you think about it, it delivered with some KOs. It was those sports stars didn't become like mythical figures of like what a Tyson was, or plus a big pipeline for boxing was the Olympics back in the day. And still, not that it still isn't, but it really was, where you could kind of go through that journey with a lot of these fighters, and then they would turn pro, and there wasn't as much competition, with other combat sports. But like Sugar Ray Leonard was a gold medalist. Joe Frazier was a gold medalist. Muhammad Ali was an Olympian as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got a gold medal.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of them, that's where you first heard of him. Roy Jones. It was crazy. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're still trying to locate Artem Lobov. So let's do this right now. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. We're going to pay some bills, and then we will come back with the Russian Hammer.
Have boxes of gold stars that they purchase themselves. They are the legends and demand your respect. Here are George and Goes.
All right, we're reshuffling the deck a little bit while we locate Artem Lobov. And some news broke earlier, yesterday, today, I don't know. Earlier. The ESPY Awards are now featuring MMA-specific Best Fighter category for the first time. So they're no longer lumped in, trying to chase down Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao or other fighters that are way more popular than ours. I mean, with the exception of, I think, McGregor, you know, there's some of them just don't stand a chance. Mm-hmm. But what I want to make sure before we get into this is what is the year that they use for the ESPYs? If it's 2018, okay, I can tell you, I can give you a good idea of who I think should get it because there's Israel Adesanya, Daniel Cormier, Henry Cejudo, and Amanda Nunes. I thought they used to run a July 1. No, I guess June 1 to May 30th type calendar. But if it's a reflection of 2018, which I think would be the easiest, then who would you guys be leaning towards here?
I'm not sure what exactly they're doing, but this feels like a step forward, obviously, and it probably has to do with the ESPN deal. But still, it's not where it needs to be, right? Because they don't have best golfer and there's females and males mixed, right? Here you have females and males mixed. It would have been nice to get best female fighter, best male fighter. Don't you think?
No.
No?
No, just give me the best fighter, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't have to sit through it on television. A lot of those things don't get I know where you're going, you know, but
awards presented earlier this evening.
Yeah, one of those or something, but I think you
the
could
best foreign film, right?
Yeah.
Because they have best female golfer, best male golfer, best tennis player, male tennis, best female player.
I think there's, like, when you watch a golf tournament, female, it seems like there's 50 of them or 100 of them teeing off on a Thursday, same as the male, whereas female to male MMA, what would you say is the percentage?
Of how many there are?
Yeah.
Or per card?
No, let's just use the whoever would be eligible for something like this, like UFC Bellator probably. I don't know if one championship is going to produce somebody just yet that can be a part of this. So let's say one roster is 600, Bellator maybe got another 300. We'll call it 1,000. What is...
Right. Well, Bellator is going to tilt it heavily male if you allow them in the mix. But if you're only considering UFC, I mean, now it's certainly not 50-50, but, boy, there's a lot more women in it than there were. I mean, you've got weight divisions now going all the way up to 145 pounds.
I just don't feel like it'd be one female that would rule year after year. I mean, think about, like, Joanna had a pretty good run, right? Valentina, Amanda Nunes, Cyborg, Ronda. I'm sure you would have had a lot of them.
Here's why I don't like it, because you're right. There is 45 divisions.
Chicks must hate you,
but there's only 5 of them. You see what I'm saying? And I know there's an atom weight that exists, but it's, like, only at Invicta, I believe. UFC sure as hell don't have them. And, like, bantamweight seems like it's down to maybe 20. Only because I stare at these names goes all the time with the rankings. Strawweight, like when we say lightweight, featherweight, middleweight, welterweight, and we go, dude, it's about 100 deep or 90. We're not exaggerating. And there's those first 30 or 40, like number 39 can beat number 3. You know what I mean? In women's strawweight, it's pretty deep up until about 10 to 15. And you look after that and you just go, they're not going to win a world title. Like, I don't see this. Like, it gets really ugly very quickly. There's just not depth. So to have, I don't know if they each deserve an award just yet. Now, there's some sports where I watch the Olympics and I love them to death equally. Or, like if you say Wimbledon, it's the women's final and the men's final, same thing, no problem. In the Olympics, one sport I really like is that indoor volleyball, and even the outdoor volleyball.
That is
and
fun.
Again, yeah. So I know I get the misogynist label sometimes. Both of them actually. I know I get the misogynist label, but in this sport, I just don't see that there's the depth, and so I don't know that I want to create a whole new category just yet. It's just starting off, guys. You know, Ronda Rousey fought in the UFC for the first time. What was it, 2013? You know what I mean? Hoist Gracie did this in 1993. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's still a catch-up to be done.
Think so?
Yeah.
I think they could do it.
And plus, who's to say that Amanda can't beat those other 3?
You can, but I don't know that it would be fair. I think people would just
Hey, JL, are you still on hold?
You're still on hold.
Can you just hang up on him and try it again? And
we did that. We did that too.
What the fuck? Those guys don't know how to transfer to a
So then, like,
it sounds like we need to have George call the hotel operator. That's what'll be fun.
Yeah. So basically, the second number is a reservations number. So when we had to, like, after we called that number, we had to call back the other number, and now they're still trying to figure it out. It's an entire thing.
Crazy.
Because we're on.
Like, it has nothing to do with him. It's literally just the hotel.
We should book the room next to him through that reservations number, and then send someone over there to knock on the door.
Can you imagine if we were calling him to go, hey, man, we just saw 30 Irish dudes walk into the front door. You need to get out of there. He'd never get that message.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was saying during the break. It'd be cool if he gets a cell phone. We definitely want to do that.
The fuck, man? This is fucking pissing me off right now. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, on hold, it's already 6:19 over here. Okay, all right. On the air, can you put me through and hang up on him and start over?
Yeah.
Wait, you want me to put the call for on the air?
You're going to give his hotel room number and stuff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You can't just say the name?
Yeah. Oh. But then if I put the call for on the air, you're just going to hear, like, the music.
No, they don't ask for a hotel number. They just ask for a name.
They ask for a name and you give the room number.
Yeah.
You have to match them.
But like, we didn't even get to that part yet because, like, nobody's picking up.
Oh my God! All right, let me ask Arnold soon.
All right, well, hey, let's talk about some big news that happened today. Henry Cejudo has an injury that's going to put him out for the rest of the year. It's a shoulder. It's close to the rotator cuff, but it's not a rotator cuff injury. Here's why this sucks. I feel bad because the guy's been pretty active. He's finally starting to get into a little bit of a groove. But the part that sucks for me is he's a champ. And one of those divisions is going to suffer more than the other because one of those belts has been on the shelf longer.
Mm-hmm.
This is where champ kind of gets annoying for me. What do you think, Richard?
As far as my general feeling about champ.
Just the situation that we're in.
Well, the situation that we're in, the first thought that comes to mind when
are you going to say interim?
We talk about what?
Are you going to say interim title?
Oh no, no.
Okay.
I was just going to say my first thought that comes to mind is how singularly bad I think this impacts Henry Cejudo's momentum. Mm-hmm. Because one thing that I'm always having to remind myself about as someone who pays an unhealthy amount of attention to the sport is that compared to the average amount of attention that someone pays to it, even just a casual fan, boy, a year, next year, I mean, even 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is, you're going to be reintroducing Henry Cejudo to some people. As crazy as that sounds. And that sucks for him. Because not only for him and his brand and this amazing coming out, party that he basically just had, but he saved the flyweight division, so there was going to be a renaissance, a relaunch of that. Where does it leave all that? Boy, this injury hurts on more than one or two levels, I think.
What he has to do is kind of like something that he did yesterday, and he's just got to stay out there. He can't fight, but he's got to stay out there. I know people think that Bella Twins angle's kind of corny. Keep doing that. Keep showing up at Dana White Contender Series. Try and get some, I keep wanting to call it the Fox desk, but the ESPN desk.
Yeah.
Try and get one of those gigs. Stick around.
Who?
Henry Cejudo.
Oh. Okay.
But you got to be in the people's eye because Richard's right. Mm-hmm. 9 months doesn't seem like a long time, but it is in mixed martial arts.
Yes,
and when he comes back, people are going to kind of go, oh, okay, I remember, what was going on. But they're consumed with all the other divisions. All the antics of a Conor McGregor, Colby Covington, all these guys doing all these new faces coming in. Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
Hang
on a second, guys. JL, did you get that new number? Or did that number match up the other one?
I'm calling it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Stuff like that.
We're not even going to have that much time now. All right. Luckily, Artem gets to it, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's no messing around. He actually gives some of the best quotes out there.
Totally.
Do you think it's too late to get George and that hotel operator on the undercard at Bare Knuckle? Could you be ready in just like 72 hours notice?
I mean, we were on hold for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The hotels usually go DoubleTree. Yeah. room this. Okay, hold on. Boom.
You know something?
Like they're so quick that they don't even go, how's your day going? They just, boom, transfer you.
I'll bet if you put George and that hotel operator on that undercard, Junkie Nation would actually show relevant numbers in terms of pay-per-view buys.
Think so?
Yep. I know.
For
we'd
fuck's
have,
sake, the number isn't even
Apex.
ringing?
We'd have
What the fuck, man?
A new MMA Junkie Apex.
This is the kind of trash talk we'd hear.
Pretty much.
This is what the face-off
between the two
between
of them would be like. You just sent me a picture of the goddamn fucking number over there. So now we got the number, and now it's not ringing. How's it not ringing?
I sense an unflattering Yelp review in this hotel operator's future.
Totally.
That's the number right there. It doesn't ring, Jail. There's no. There's no that.
There's like no ring. There's no ringtone at all.
What did I type? I typed the right number. Usually it's my mistake.
Well,
right? That's the right number. That and that.
Yes. That is the right number.
Can you try it again, Jail, please?
I'm calling it as we speak.
Okay.
Wait, can you hear that?
That is weird.
Oh my God, dude.
Well, we gotta just bail on that.
Okay, I'm just gonna profusely apologize.
Yeah.
This is incredible, man. What other way could we do this, guys? Is there?
We can maybe, if we take another break, maybe we can do it at the end, at the very end.
All right, let's take a break. Yeah, let's take a break. I'm gonna go behind the Mandalay Bay and kick somebody. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. Stay close. We'll be right back. Man, it's been a while since I've been this pissed off. I'm a pretty chill dude, man, but the DoubleTree in Tampa Bay, and there's a couple of them there, they just advertise numbers that don't work.
Do you?
What is that, man? All right, let me get this read done, and then we're going to be joined by Ian Joy from Fox Sports. Be the smartest fan in the room and the most informed member of your fantasy league with Fantasy Sports Radio. Hear previews of the NBA draft and free agency from the betting perspective, plus fantasy baseball and fantasy football every day on Sirius 210 XM87, streaming on your phone and at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. Have you guys ever heard of such a thing?
Yeah. Where you just dial and nothing rings?
Yeah, it's advertised to the guest. Hey, this is where you're at. Tell your friends. It's advertised on the internet. Want to stay here? Call this number. But yet, when you call, it doesn't work. It doesn't even go through. Like, oh my God, and I'm trying to calm down because I want to be pleasant to our guest Ian Joy. But this is one of the headliners, man. I was really, really looking forward to talking to Harlem.
Are there any other hotel numbers? Like I could step out and start trying to call on the cell phone? I mean, if you guys think you could get
You have a cell phone?
I have a cell phone, yeah.
We'll figure it out in just a sec. Right now, let's bring on Ian Joy. We're going to talk about the Women's World Cup and a little bit of Copa America. Ian Joy, which one of the two tournaments has got you the most excited?
What a question that is. Yeah, listen, I think both tournaments have grabbed me by the scruff of the neck because there's been entertainment in both tournaments so far. The Women's World Cup has been by far, in my opinion, an eye-catcher for everybody. And even people who are not necessarily fans of the women's game are now fans of the women's game because the games have been so good, so entertaining. So I would say it's a close race right now, but the Women's World Cup, I mean, it's pretty entertaining right now.
Yeah, you're right. It hits closer to home for most of the people that are going to be listening to this interview. So we'll definitely start there and then maybe get a couple questions in on Copa America. But the women's team is just our pride and joy because the men, and tell me if I'm being unfair, the men have just been a failure, over these years. In 1994, we had the World Cup, and I remember a gentleman named Peter Ubroth who said, you just watch. I think he gave it 20 years or something like that. And I believed him, Ian. I thought, man, with all the great athletes America produces, we're going to be there. And it seems like we're getting worse and worse. So if anything, I'm so glad that the women step up and represent us well in soccer because we have some really, really good soccer players in this country. But somehow they just collectively as a team, they haven't been able to do it as for the men, but the women have knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, well, I mean, the women are world champions, right? They're world champions for a reason. Obviously, it goes back to the youth generation and how much money was invested in the girls' game. And, of course, they're so talented, and we have to stand behind the women as much as we possibly can and recognize that. But the guys themselves have got work to do. It seems like we are going backwards from probably 2002 when we had our best squad. But, I mean, I'm enjoying watching the women's right now. The guys have got some time, obviously, through this Gold Cup to try and improve, but the women right now are on fire.
How did you feel about the 13-0 win by the Americans? Very impressive, but, of course, heat came from fans and media saying, that the celebrations or it just being, too much of a leveling. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, listen, I think that whenever you put effort into something, you have a right to be able to celebrate it in whichever way you want. And for me personally, having been through it and know how hard it takes to get to the highest level, you got to be able to enjoy it. You got to be able to celebrate in how you want to. I recognize there's a respect factor that comes into the game, but there's no way that we can sit there and say to these girls, don't enjoy the moment, don't enjoy scoring your first goal in a World Cup or your 20th goal in a World Cup. Doesn't matter. Go and enjoy the moment and celebrate how you choose. And if you want to be able to respect the opponent, each individual should have their right to be able to do what they want to do.
And imagine how lucky you just have to be in a World Cup, to step on the pitch, because you could be a reserve and never step on the pitch at all. In fact, I think Ronaldo, the great Ronaldo from Brazil, was 17 when he came over in 1994 with the Brazilians, and I'm not sure he got on the pitch. But yet, he had a stellar career. But imagine being able to step on the pitch, and then let's just say you do, whether it's 10 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever, you get a chance to score. Well, that might be your only time, man. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you feel that way, because I felt the same. It'd be a lot different if you're slashing your throat and facing their bench and doing something like that. But I think every goal is just a celebration in itself.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. And I understand and I can respect people's opinion, and I think it's down to the individual, whether you want to celebrate or you don't want to celebrate, whether you want to show respect. I think in many ways, you're actually showing disrespect if you don't celebrate and you don't try your hardest. So I stand behind the girls who celebrate, and I respect the ones who choose not to.
Mm-hmm. All right, Goes, what do you have for Ian Joy?
Ian, my question was along the lines of how we started off, and that's how to increase the popularity of the sport here in the United States. There are many different routes I think that you could take, but what I'm wondering is this. MLS seems to be growing, but is MLS really the route to make the sport more popular? Is it having like EPL available more for American fans? Because that's really the sport there, what you're seeing overseas. Even maybe trying to bolster up international play a little bit more. I just don't know what the route is, but I don't feel like MLS is the route.
That's a great question, and it would probably take an hour discussion to be able to get to the bottom of it, but I will try to answer it as short as I possibly can. Listen, Major League Soccer is a tremendous league. It's still very young. There's not a lot of history in Major League Soccer, and of course, the fans who started watching Major League Soccer when they were kids are now in their 20s and 30s, and they're actually recognizing them. I used to go and watch these games when I was 6 and 7 years old with my father, and there wasn't a history before that. But now having that history over 25 years, we're getting into a stage where money is becoming a big factor. Better talented players are coming to the league. There is a bigger market now. The league has sustained for such a long period of time. It's given themselves a really good platform to be able to grow and become a powerhouse league. But that will take time. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 20 years. In my opinion, it takes 40 to 60 to 70 years plus down the line to be able to get yourself to a level where the world sits up and takes notice. Right now, it's a league that's growing. Right now, we have to recognize that Major League Soccer has done everything it possibly can to try and find the right recipe for the league. It's no longer just bringing in big names and spending, $1 million or $2 million on transfer fees and then $5 million on the big name players. You're trying to bring in the younger talented players from around the world, and maybe there's a possibility to sell them on. We've already seen this season a record transfer fee of a player going out of the league, and that was also broken this season with another player leaving to go to Europe. So I think clubs are recognizing there's good business there in Major League Soccer, and of course younger players from around the world are recognizing that Major League Soccer is a good platform, and they're helping our league grow. As for the national team, we still got a long way to go to be able to get back to where we once were as far as the talent goes, but having a strong and powerful league like Major League Soccer gives us a chance. And of course now you can watch more soccer games in the US on Bundesliga, Premier League, La Liga, French League, South American League, Mexican League than ever before. You can watch more games here than anywhere else in the world. And I think that can only bode well for our future. It takes time. Everybody has to have patience. But I got to tell you, I'm enjoying the journey.
Ian Joy is our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, Fox Sports host and analyst. And don't forget, Fox Sports has you covered for the FIFA Women's World Cup. Fox Sports 1, Fox Network, check it out. Tomorrow there's 2 games kicking off at 9 a.m. Cameroon versus New Zealand, Netherlands versus Canada, and then, of course, Sweden versus USA and Thailand versus Chile, in those kick off at 12 p.m. Pacific. All right, Gilles, continue. Sorry.
Ian, so in our sport, mixed martial arts, it's still young, and we're still making tweaks to the rules, trying to find out what works, what doesn't, what's appeasing, what isn't. Some of these sports like Major League Baseball, soccer, they're pretty set in their rules, and they make a few tweaks here and there, but it's nothing really major. But now in soccer, we got the instant replay is starting to get passed around a little bit, and some people are messing around with it, toying around. Some people like it, other people like tradition. Where do you fall on that? Because what it does create when there is no instant replay is a little bit of controversy, and sometimes controversy can help build moments.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't behind the decision to bring in sort of like a video review on or even goal line technology. I wasn't behind it because I guess I would say I'm old school on. I like the fact that there was that discussion whether it was in or it wasn't over the line, whether it was a foul or it wasn't a foul. Now there seems to be a little delay every time we go to video review, but I've got to admit, when we get the right decision, I love it. I think it's great. I think it proves its value. So many times down the years, we've seen the wrong decision affect the game, and the wrong decision be so vital to the outcome, to the result, and that means a lot to people through history, whether it be winning a gold medal or a World Cup or scoring a goal or winning a match. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like in UFC, MMA, whatever it may be, if it's a decision that goes against you that maybe the referee missed or the judges missed, then, you know, you feel like hard done by. But if you've got someone watching with an eagle eye to watch over the referee, to watch over the judges, to be able to make sure that the correct decision is made, then I'm all for that. And that's what's happening in soccer right now. It's controversial because people don't like the fact that we're stopping the game and it's just maybe a fraction that's causing the outcome. Even today in the women's game, there was a penalty kick that went to video review and it was replayed once again for maybe even half an inch or 1 inch from the goalkeeper leaving the line before having to then award a retake of the penalty because she left her line by half an inch. But that's the correct decision at the end of the day. I don't care what anyone says. It's the correct decision. So if video review is going to come into any sport, as long as it gets the decision right, I'm all for it. But we have to make sure it's quick. The decision's made fast and it doesn't slow the game down too much.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ian, last question from me. A big figurehead in our sport, Dana White, president of the UFC, since, I don't know, maybe the last 7 or 8 years, has talked about how he wants to make mixed martial arts the biggest sport on the planet, overtaking all of the sports. George and I, being longtime soccer fans, football fans, whatever you want to call us, we often laughed at that because we said that's just impossible.
Hysterically laughed at that.
It's impossible because when the World Cup is going on, it may not happen in the U.S., but the world stops almost everywhere else. The streets are empty. I just don't know that can happen. When you hear a comment like that, because Dana White has said a lot of things, and he's actually come through on a lot of things, and he surprises us over and over, but do you give him anything towards that? Is that even remotely possible?
It's another great question, and I'm a big fan of Dana. I think what he's done for UFC and for mixed martial arts has been unbelievable, and how quickly he's taken the UFC to be the brand that it is right now, the platform he's given these fighters, the viewing numbers. I mean, I'm hooked. I watch as much as I possibly can. I even spent some time with our Fox crew when we had the rights to UFC. I went in a few times and hung out with the guys and watched some bouts, and I could see how passionate everybody was for it. So I recognize that it's growing at a rapid pace, just like Major League Soccer is growing at a rapid pace here in the US. But to say that it's going to be bigger than soccer around the world is a big ask. I don't blame him for wanting to try. I don't blame him for seeing a vision of the UFC being on everybody's lips at the weekend or in the office, everybody talking about the latest fight or the upcoming fight. I mean, I love the rise that it's taken already so far, and people are starting to really recognize how big it's become so quickly, and they have a fan, or they're a fan of a fighter, or they love a fight or an event, like I do. But at the same time, again, it goes down to what I said earlier. History. You need the years behind you. It's not going to happen overnight. Over time, maybe over 50, 60, 70 years, you'll see UFC become one of the top 3 sports in the world. I recognize that. But to say it's going to be bigger than soccer will be very difficult because, as you said, it's a religion in certain countries. It is a life's passion. It is a job for so many people around the world. And people take holidays. There are public holidays. There are presidents and there are obviously parliaments that shut down completely when it comes to a World Cup because it is their life. And until that happens for any other sport, I don't believe it.
There you have it.
Do you remember the World Cup in Germany when we went to the Spain-Ukraine game? Do you remember what city that was in?
It was in Leipzig, which used to be East Germany.
When we got to that city, we were late.
Yep.
And all we needed was directions.
We couldn't even find anyone
because the streets were completely empty. And we were like, where is everyone? They're at the stadium. That's what it's like over there, dude.
Yeah, it was nuts. And yeah, I remember
it was
exactly
a ghost town.
It takes over many, many countries. All right, our other co-host, Richard Hunter, he's got something for you. What do you have for Ian Joy?
Yeah, Ian, with the current rise and success of the women, what do you make about the whole current conversation about pay inequity? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, another excellent question. We have to recognize that the women are world champions, and everywhere around the women's game sits up and takes notice of the U.S. women's national team. When you have a world champion, you have to treat them like world champions. I agree with the fact that they want to be paid exactly the same, if not more than the men, because the standard they are, because the superstars they have. But you got to be able to back that up with performances. If you're going to try and demand to be paid higher or more than anyone else in the game, you got to be able to bring the performances and results. If they go ahead and win this World Cup, they have yet again another reason to complain, another reason to be able to fight for what they believe is right. I'm a real fan of equality, and for me, I recognize that the women's game needs backing, it needs support, it needs pushing, and there's no better support that could come for the women than from their own federation. They have it from the country. Our viewing numbers on Fox are through the roof. We've done an excellent job of putting on a terrific broadcast for games, for pre-game shows, for post-game shows, and you can look at the viewing numbers. They go through the roof. So, as in MMA, when you have a pay-per-view that hits record numbers, you have to respect that these fighters made it happen. This event made it happen. And these girls right now are getting the viewing numbers in, they're scoring goals, they're entertaining the world right now. So why not give them their pay? I'm fully behind the girls.
Nice. All right. Also, folks, don't forget Fox Sports has you covered for the Gold Cup as well. Now, Ian, I know we're short on time, but I got to ask you one thing just on Copa America. I want to touch on it. Lionel Messi, I mean, it breaks my heart to just watch that guy not be able to lead Argentina to even a Copa America, much less a World Cup. What is it about? I mean, they have great players that get paid well and do well in all these leagues across Europe and South America, but collectively, what has been wrong with Argentina, who if you recall, they won 2 World Cups, about 20, 30 years ago, and then they were in many finals. What's going on over there?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Right now, they're actually losing at this moment in time to Paraguay in Copa America. So just to make matters worse, yeah, the players, the names, obviously, you recognize the talent that Argentina have. I'll keep this short. They're too good to be performing in the manner that they're performing. But one thing you cannot forget is that if you have a team that is so united, they're willing to fight for one another. It doesn't matter what level they play at. If they're a team that's got the full backing from the federation, that has a great coach, and they are together in sync with one another, it's difficult to break down. And Argentina are not that right now. Argentina and even some of the other nations around the world or in Copa America, they're not together. There's a team of individuals, and to try and break down a team of 11 players who are all in sync with one another, who will go to war with one another in a 90-minute game, you just sometimes find it so difficult to break that down. And if you're fighting with 1 or 2 players who are not fully up for the battle, you're going to lose, and that's what's happening to Argentina right now.
All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by MMA Junkie Radio. We always appreciate hearing from you, and we love the fact that you're also an MMA fan. So we appreciate your time this evening, Ian.
You got it. Thanks for having me on again.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Check out Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports on their internet app for all the Women's World Cup, the Gold Cup. I mean, it's popping over there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the Women's World Cup, come on, ladies, bring it home. We could definitely use that because the men's soccer team just, I don't understand what's happened in the last 17 years.
It ain't clicking.
Where we've taken steps backwards. Anyway, we'll be right back. We got to do our last break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156.
abducted by aliens and instantly returned for raiding all their snacks. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
I want aliens to abduct me right now. Right now. If that roof just opened up and I got sucked up in there.
They'd return you.
Well, that's fine. I just want to be gone for like the next 10 minutes.
Let's test on someone else.
I still can't believe that if you call a hotel to talk to a guest, their phone just doesn't ring. That's.
I've had that happen to me with a cable company out here. That's why I kind of know what they're talking about. I don't know what it was. But
I guess I did get a busy signal, and then I was joking around because there was things I was talking with Richard, and Jael thought I was talking to him. And then there was things where I was talking to Jael, and then Richard thought the same thing, or you, and I had to answer like 3 or 4 times. But it's now you reach a point where you've been boiling for a while, and now it's all funny. So it's all just coming out like funny for me. And what are we gonna do?
So are we at the point where it's funny?
I was proud that this was a great booking on Fight Week.
Yeah.
And I really, really want to come through. And Artem could not have been nicer, man. He had every right to go. What the fuck, man? I haven't eating a full meal and I'm about to bare knuckle somebody on Saturday. You guys can't get your act together. He could not have been any nicer.
Are we at the point where it's funny now?
He was like, seriously, like, I'm waiting here, you know what I mean? I'm like, we're on hold, and it was.
We should inform about this because Conor McGregor does not tolerate any shenanigans at the expense of Artem Lobov. I think we need to make Conor aware of the mistreatment he's getting.
We'd probably have an easier time of getting him on the phone than we would.
Yeah, he'll fly over.
And then you know what really was like that? All this was a shit Sunday, a shit banana split. But you know what was that little cherry? There was 3 cherries. Goes got 2 great questions from Ian Joy, and Richard got an excellent question from Ian Joy. I must have asked him like 5 things. He thought so little of mine that I didn't even get like, that's interesting, or never thought of that, or anything like that. He just answered them, no problem. But with Goes, he like actually took a breath. And said, wow, that's a great question. And then
when they do it like that, I almost take
shout
it
out
offensive.
to John Stauffer from Fox Sports for lining that up.
I almost get offensive because now it turns into not that was a good question. It was, I had no idea something like that could come out of your mouth. Sometimes it goes too far.
What's better, the great question or excellent question? I think he topped you, but he only had 1. You had 2.
Well, he said that's another excellent question.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah. Okay. So he brought up my level.
And I'm a soccer guy, folks. I'm the one that wakes up at 4:30 to watch Manchester United, and I'm so happy to have this former player on, Fox Sports host and everything. I got nothing. Richard doesn't even know what a soccer ball looks like. If I go, can you go on your way here, can you go to Walmart where, we need to put a prop on the desk and give me a soccer ball? He'd go, can you send me a picture of a soccer ball?
Yeah.
And then I'd have to send him a picture, and he got excellent questions. You got 2 great questions.
The only thing
all in the middle of this meltdown of because of a hotel that doesn't.
The only thing that would make this worse is if we get off the air, if I call that hotel and go, Artem Lobov's room, please. Hey, Artem. Hey, listen.
Hey, can I ask for Jael's perspective on something?
Yeah.
Hey, sure, Jael. So at any point during George's rant, did you ever mute the mic and go, I know how to dial a phone, fool? Like, were you ever at that point? Because he was kind of questioning whether or not you knew how to push the buttons.
At one point, I had to, like, stop and, like, pick up my cell phone and call. It's like, wait, is, like, the phone here broken? But, yeah, it just doesn't work.
And you know what? And there was a point where I was like, dude, Jael doesn't even know how to hit a 1 before the 813 or what's going on?
That's why I told you dial it on your cell phone because
that's why I
you
did.
Guys get to that point where.
And then it didn't work, but
and they had 2 guys on it.
I always try and pride myself on being cool in these situations. But you know what was another thing was I may just need to get rid of it, but those little drop-down notifications just are starting to drive me nuts. You know what I mean? I mean, it's cool.
Like they were distracting?
Yeah, like if a text comes in or a notification. And then I even went on... I think when I went to Google to see that DoubleTree or something,
like he's having PTSD. Look at him shake.
Would you like us to be your front page? What's it called? Your
homepage?
Yeah, and I did no, and then cookies and so many things kept coming up, and then I'm going through all these windows trying to figure out what's what. I had to like move things around, shrink them, and whatever, man. But
what if Saturday Artem is like, hey, what time are you guys picking me up for the fight? And they're like, oh, we'll just call you from downstairs when the car's here.
Oh man, I'm telling. Well, from downstairs might work because you pick up a house phone.
Yeah.
But if you call from outside, it ain't gonna work. We've tried it and it ain't gonna work. I'm hoping he can do tomorrow's show, but I'm trying to figure out how we can do it. We're gonna be in the same pickle.
Nah, I mean at that point somebody has got to walk in there with that technology.
That futuristic, rare technology.
Somebody in PR, somebody's got to be able to walk in there with one of those and just go. Even like as crazy as it sounds, Richard, Chris Lieben would probably do that.
Yeah,
he honestly probably would.
Do they get along? I want to make sure they're cool.
I think so.
Okay.
I think Chris is past that.
What if Chris and Paulie Malignaggi are pals? I don't know. All right. Well, thanks so much for stopping by again.
My pleasure.
We had a great time with you as always.
Time with you.
Ian Joy, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Don't forget Fox Sports has you covered for the Gold Cup and the Women's World Cup. And aside from that, check out the Copa America. Brazil also tied at home. Man, you gotta believe the fans at home the fans in Brazil must be livid. I mean, livid. You know what I mean? It'd be like the Dream Team basketball. Those guys, not drawing but losing. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Go out there and be a champion.